Okay, I think we are recording here. This is the
Okay.
second episode of Dude, Where's My Flashlight?
Oh, that's
I
really
can't
cute.
tell you how many times on a light painting shoot it's dark, the flashlights are black, and our bags are usually black, and you just can't find that missing flashlight. And you don't want to leave. So I thought that was pretty funny to have a good title. So we have Katrina Brown here, Redhead Katrina on Instagram. Thank you so much for joining. You've been an inspiration to me, and as well as thousands of others. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It is definitely a pleasure to have you on the show. I want to talk about not necessarily the what and the how. We're not going to talk about gear. We're not going to talk about tools. I want to know the whys, and particularly giving our audience a little bit of time, a sneak peek behind the curtain, if you will, as you as an artist, because I feel like Instagram just doesn't really show behind the scenes as much as I would like to. And I really want to connect this community. I think this is a good way to start. And so take me back to when you first identified as an artist, actually. Before you, was it the first time you put a camera in your hand, or maybe before?
Just a general artist?
Yeah, just like was there a time in your in the span of creating you were like, okay, I am an artist, this is what I'm supposed to do? Because I feel like there's so many like people on the fence, and they don't know how to like push themselves and just say, I'm going to take this leap. I'm an artist, and here I go, and I don't care where I land. I'm just going to jump. Tell me about. Did you have a day like that? And
No. I'm finding, because I don't have a lot of memories as a young kid, but I did find some Polaroids when my mom passed away, where
awesome.
I used to get my butt beat for stealing her film, and I was about 5. And I
Yeah.
would dress up my Barbie dolls, and I would dress up my dog, and I would pose him, and I had completely forgotten about that. So I think it's just always kind of been there. I take whatever's in my environment and I manipulate the hell out of it, whether it's jewelry, scrapbooking, everything. So I think it's just always been there. I can't really say when it happened.
Okay, I love it. And speaking of actually using the natural settings, one of the things I typically like to do is actually on the location of a shot, just being like, okay, is there anything laying around, like a pine cone? We're out in the forest here up in the Northwest, and so like pine cones or like I don't know, anything off the ground to add like a prop into the hand to really tell the story. I think one of the best things I find inspirational about you is your art really tells a story. And I know
Thank
that's,
you.
yeah, and I think that's a really good thing for the audience. And so maybe these up and coming artists like myself to really understand is like, what makes a good light painter a great light painter. And maybe one of those things is telling a story. Like, how much emphasis do you do on really telling that story in your shots?
Well, I think where that comes from is I'm primarily a commercial photographer.
Hmm.
So telling the story is kind of my job.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of the mixture of all that, those years of working, of creating the story for somebody else and putting it to use in my own light painting.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. It's funny because a lot of people are asking me, were you a photographer before a light painter? And actually, I fall into that category of the inverse. I was actually light painting before I was a photographer, and I realized that the better of a photographer I become, that actually translates right into better light painting. My compositions are better, my exposure time's better. I mean, everything is better when you learn your equipment. Uh, can you give us a couple tips and tricks just from being such a good photographer, daytime and nighttime? Like, what would you say to like these beginning light painters are like, okay, don't go on set and just like, don't do these couple things? Or,
Oh gosh, it's so different for everybody else. Some people don't plan, some people do plan. I guess it's just how your creative brain works. I do better when I don't plan.
okay.
I do better when I say, what emotion am I going to convey?
Yes.
And you use color and you use color theory and shape and then just go from there. And then it usually just takes off. But that's for me. Not everybody thinks that way. So
Yeah.
I notice a lot of, obviously, light painters are male. So they think about things and they approach it very engineer-like, perhaps.
Systematically, almost.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas us women, we like to take it a little bit more of an emotional, feeling kind of approach. So I take that emotion and all that through color, and then I just kind of let it go from there.
I love it. I love it. I'm trying to find the balance between both of them.
Yes.
Having a little bit of structure, almost like a rose trellis, and then letting the rose like grow up this trellis however I see fit in the moment.
Right.
It could be a color theme. It could be, I could just throw out to the group, what kind of emotion like should we paint, or what does this make us feel like, and then let's go paint that. Uh,
Right.
and speaking of the collaborations, I just got last weekend we were just at the Pacific Northwest Meteor Jam 4, and it was hosted by Dan Chick and Gunner and Chris Bauer up here in the Northwest, and so I was it was fascinating to see all the different approaches as a light painter. You know, some were very technical, some were very planned, some were very ad-libbed on the moment, but it was amazing to have all these different styles and techniques come together in a collaboration of teamwork. And one of the things I think that we can draw from you is the team that you sort of light paint with. I know you work with Patty and Ty and Danny and Nicole and Nina. Like, tell me about the team and tell me how teamwork has really evolved as far as you and your light painting goes.
Well, they're actually really amazing. We kind of just on a whim, we're getting together tonight on a whim.
Yes.
I just got back from teaching a workshop, and I'm leaving tomorrow morning to teach a workshop, and I have just enough time to go to the beach and paint with them tonight. So
yes.
Yeah, so Ty and Edgar and all them, they're very young. Patty and I, we're on the other end of that spectrum, and then we have friends that are in the middle. So I think it works really good because we have such generational differences of ideas of what to do. And of course, Nina's my daughter, so she's an indentured servant, so to speak. She wants to eat, I make her model. So, anyway, so we get together and we just kind of just do whatever. Somebody gets up, takes a turn. Somebody, I have an idea, and they take a turn, and we all just do our thing, and it just really works. And
I love it.
Yeah, they're amazing, and they come up with the greatest things.
Yes.
And of course, everybody thinks everybody else does amazing things.
Yes.
Real artists we don't like our work. We like everybody else's work, and so we just kind of feed off each other. And like Patty, she really loves doing orbs, and she's really good at it. So we don't even try. We just let her do it because we can't. Our orbs would be really sad compared to hers. And so that's kind of her thing. And then I like the tubing thing, and she likes the blade thing. And the boys, which we call them the boys because Ty, Edgar, Danny, all them, they just kind of use whatever, steel wool, whatever we want to use. So we just kind of get together, and what happens happens. Sometimes it's magic, and sometimes it's like but more often than not, it's really, really nice work.
Well, I want to specifically take us back as an audience to the storm drain night. I don't know how long ago it was. It probably wasn't that long ago because there's been some awesome, amazing pictures coming out of this. It seems like, especially, I think I read a comment from Patty saying, "Oh my gosh, this night was so perfect." You ever know once in a while those nights just all the stars align, everyone's on point, and I guess walk me through getting into that flow state, that higher state of consciousness. And again, we're not talking about light painting tools per se. I want to talk to you about the tubes in a second because I think that's where we really connect, and that's how I found you. But like, how do you stay in that flow state? And I guess also equally important, how do you get back into the flow state? If you guys have a couple good collabs, and the next thing you know, you might have one that's a little bit off. Like how do you get that person back into that flow state?
I think it's just more of an energy thing, the energy of the model, the energy of the night, were you in traffic for 2 hours, or were you in traffic for half an hour? I think all these things play a factor in it, and very rarely do we have an off night. I mean, I can't even really say that we do, because you're creating art. It's just some nights are just really banging, just everybody, one little thing gets you kind of crazy and amped up, and then it just kind of explodes from there. So
yes, it's contagious.
Yeah, totally. So, and it depends too. Like if my daughter's modeling, well, you get a different type of image. Whereas if there's nobody modeling and it's just light painting, it's just a different vibe, just a different end result. That's all. And I get more excited when there's a model. I just kind of so my energy kind of gets a little crazy, and then everybody else gets a little crazy, and then we just have just a really good time. So
I love it. There's so many things I want to talk about here. Speaking of like crazy energy, do you ever do any breath work? Because I found that like in the beginning when I was doing this, especially around models and like trying to be like, this is performance art. I mean, whether we like it or not, I mean, we are performing in front of the camera for sometimes, uh, exceeding 60 seconds or more, sometimes 5 minutes on these longer compositions.
Well, there's a reason for that.
that.
For that. No, my daughter and I'm a color guard instructor.
Awesome. See, this is how we do this.
I did drum corps for many years, and my daughter followed suit, and she's in color guard, and I still currently teach, but she's also in that too. So yeah, performance art is a big part of who her and I are. So I think that does make a big difference as far as me directing her and giving her poses and having her hold certain things. Is we have a lifetime of training for that. So
yeah. So speaking of this, what do you think about making, or this idea that I'm having as far as making like 2-man choreographed light paintings, and then we get into like three person. I shouldn't say man. We want to say person. 2-person, 3-person, 4-person, 5-person teams, almost like synchronized swimming, if you will, or doubles in tennis. And it's like, okay, cool. Now we're gonna have like almost a playbook. I come from a very athletic background, so I'm gonna use analogies of like, playbooks and stuff. But what if we had a script, or what if we had a choreographed thing where now we can have not necessarily competitions, but some sort of organized system, coming from the team aspect. Do you find there's value in something like this?
Oh, I think that would be so cool.
Right? Like if we did like a star pattern, like, okay, everyone, let's do the star patterns, and we're all doing the circulars, and I'm trying to figure out different. I mean, maybe this is the engineering male side of me coming out, but I'm trying to figure out ways through dialogue in this podcast to better this community, to help these light painters out there just like me to get to a better level, to create higher, better art that is fun and creative and honestly has a little impact. What's the why behind the art? I was, in my personal story, I come from high pressure sales. I never been an artist. I always had that one, like, you're not an artist kind of feel to my vibe. I don't have a lot of artists in my family or in my circle of friends, and so for me to step out on the slim was really scary for me. And I just want to hopefully break down those walls for other people. And I think having a little bit of schematics and making it fun is always a good way to do that. Do you have a playlist, or do you have a song? Like, do you have like what gets you there, Katrina? Like, what are you gonna put on? What are you gonna put on like when you first get there? What are you gonna drive out like to Joshua Tree, which we're gonna get to in a second? Like, what do you like put on? What's the music?
Oh, well, I'm an old lady, so from the 80s. So anyway.
Oh, well, we both are. We're both 80s children.
All right. So Depeche Mode is my jam. So
yes. Nice.
But like I said, with my friends, it's so generational. So I usually let them, Edgar, Danny, and all them, they play their music, and us old ladies, we just kind of go with it. We're like, sure. That's fine. So I don't really always need music to get me there. But if I'm by myself, oh yeah, it has to be completely up there. And
Depeche Mode. I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm making a master playlist for this interview podcast.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you ever met Mac Murdoch? He was my first guest. He's a wonderful gentleman.
I haven't met him in person, but we talk online.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, he was just at the Pacific Northwest meetup, and so I got the chance to sit down with him. We did a small interview, which is episode 1. And it was interesting to see everyone's different picks. So is there a Depeche Mode song that you would add to this list?
Well, Enjoy the Silence, but okay. There's about 200 versions of it.
Right.
So a more techno version of it is
techno.
And I also use that for my warm-ups for my color guard kits. So
yes.
It's my go-to thing. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk about our connection through the tubes and being Jedis, right?
Oh, yay! You pick up on that?
Yeah, of course I did. I mean, like, I feel the Force in me. I feel the dark side of the Force. I feel the light side of the Force. The Force is definitely there, and I can feel it through you, and I can feel it through your paintings. And I think that's what drew me initially to you as a fellow Jedi. I most of my paintings are inspired by Eric and Kim. I think there's a lovely duo. They're just great at what they do. They really set the stage for other artists to create, and it's just so much gratitude and thanks to them. So yeah, tell me about the tubes. You use Eric's tubes. You use light painting tubes, or do you use other tubes? What else?
We had made our own to begin with.
Okay.
Yeah. So red, green, typical colors that you can find with gels, rainbow ones. We've tried everything.
Yeah.
But when I tried Eric's holographic tubes, I mean, just fell in love.
Yes.
Those tubes are worth every penny. They're beautiful. And we met him in person. We went and had a shoot in Death Valley. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So, just kind of having that connection with what he does and how he does it and the quality that he puts into his product and those tubes, those holographic tubes, and even the orange one, that orange with that blue hour, just, I don't know. There's just no color like it. So I can't come close to that. Yeah.
I love it. I know. In fact, actually, I was just looking through my feed this today actually, and I was like, oh, cool. I haven't posted an orange tube in a while, which means I get to go play with it again because I'm always trying to, make it diverse, try to, give new looks, and so I'm always about every nine posts I think is going to be definitely an orange tube because it is also my favorite as well. It always looks good on film. It always comes out great. And so, so thank you for being a fellow Jedi. I really love to meet you. I have these Jedi shots. I have so many shots in mind, which I love collabs because you can get them done that way because you can actually speak light painting with other people and they understand it and they feed off each other. And one of the shots we just did was a backbend Matrix Neo shot where they actually hit me with Roman candles. And
wow.
I just posted it today. It's actually really funny, but I just love getting with other crazy people and saying, okay, cool, we're going to get this done no matter what. We work together and do it. What's your favorite Star Wars scene? I know this is I know.
Oh, you put me on the spot.
What's your favorite Star Wars scene?
Well, I mean, if I have to, because I'm an emotional girl. When she says "I love you" and he says "I know," what I love about it is you do know that was not scripted.
Yes,
you know that.
So, I do.
Because it was a spontaneous thing and it turned out to be just such a magical part of the film, I'd have to say that's my favorite one.
Awesome, nice.
Yeah.
I wanted to, me too. There's something about the trash compactor scene.
Yeah.
There's just something about the trash compactor scene that I really do like. I could go on and on about this.
We could go on days for that. That could be a whole podcast all in itself.
Yes. I've been thinking about doing a stop motion Jedi scene. So when I get that one done, I will definitely tag you in that one.
Okay, that'd be great.
For sure. Okay, so let's talk about Joshua Tree. I was just there. Let's see, in June. I was on a world tour, and I ended up in Palm Springs for the Palm Springs Photo Festival. One of my mentors in photography in general, especially underwater photography, is Cheryl Walsh, and she was put on I don't know if you're familiar with her underwater mermaid kind of ethereal shots. Yeah, she's amazing. So I got to spend some amazing time with her, learning and doing as well. And I went out to Joshua Tree on a couple nights that we were there, and just a magical place. We have 800,000 acres of magic to play in. I mean, this playground is something else. Tell me what it means to you. Are there any specific places out there that you remember being just exceptionally awesome? And tell me about the shoot and what you did and how you planned it and the whole thing.
Gosh. Well, there's one particular spot. Obviously, I only know it by GPS coordinates, but it doesn't have a specific name. But you have clear north and clear southeast shots, so you can make the most of your camera. So you can set your north to get trails one way, you can set another camera another, and then do your light painting. So it's a spot that we go to quite a bit, and it's just like a playground. There's just 1,000 things to do there. So we kind of just did all the things tonight, and we literally just did the one with the lantern. I don't know if you've seen that shot.
Of course.
The one where they're, my friend Ty, poor thing, they look like they're getting engaged when they're really not. So we did all kinds of things. And I'm sure he's thinking, Jesus, this lady's making me do all this stupid shit. But we just did all the things, and it was just such a neat and productive evening.
Yeah. So, and it's on, I think, the dark sky list. It's now just either added or it's been added. So when I was out there, the Milky Way was just something else. The galaxy was, I went in summertime, so obviously it's galaxy season. I went during a new moon, which I planned accordingly. Sometimes I live shoot the moon. Sometimes I actually prefer to have stars in my shot just because that's a pretty big flashlight up there that you have to account for. You know what I mean? But I loved it. I loved it. I spent 2 nights out there. I can't wait to go back. Even just the rock formations itself seem to tell their own story. And it was interesting. I kind of wanted to actually just paint the rocks and not even the model, as in some sort of animation, like a stop motion, like children's book kind of thing. I don't know. I'm gonna explore more of that next time we talk. But yes, I love that place. I think that it needs to be protected. I think only 2,500 acres right now are actually under protection, and I hope to see that grow immensely as we go forward. I'm trying to think here. Let's see. I'm going to eventually, one of my big goals is to open up a Hogwarts for light painters. I'm kind of a Harry Potter fan, and I was going to ask you if you would come back in 5 or 10 years and join me as a professor here, which course would you teach in light painting?
Oh my goodness.
It can be anything, because you're only the second guest, and so.
Well, that depends. Are you going to have one on styling or posing? How intricate did you want to get?
I want to get as intricate as we can, because the more specific we can get, the more professors we can have, number one, and two, the better curriculum we can provide for our Padawans.
Okay. Well, I think the biggest thing is styling, which includes your background. Your background is actually just like commercial photography. It's more important than your foreground, right? Just like with any photography. So I think that's where a lot of light painters go wrong, is they're so busy focused on what's being done in front. They're not paying attention to what's behind, or bokeh, or styling, or whether the model looks, does that dress make her look fat, or does it make her look slender, regardless of whether she really is or not. So it's all these little things that just the overall, you have to see like a light painter, I think, before you can actually be an excellent one. And I think that has a lot to do with styling.
Yeah. To extrapolate on that a little bit, one of the rules that I have, and I think I'm going to put out a small YouTube video on this, is I've made a rule that I don't like to shoot light paintings in a location that wouldn't be taken without the light painting. So if I would take this shot during the day, say like the Joshua Tree Arch, right? It's a beautiful thing. It's definitely a magical place at night. But that's something that's interesting to me without the light painting. And then the model adds an accent to that. And the light painting adds an accent or icing to both of them. And I think that's a pretty good recipe if you start with something that's already interesting. You have the background, you have the composition already there, you know where the model is. And that can go into a little bit of planning. That could go into creative walks. I like to do creative walks before my shoots, just because, I want to do a little visualization. I want to do a little creativity with my own way. So yeah, that's awesome. I think the background and the styling. Where do you get your wonderful style? Like, where do you get all the dresses and the beautiful things? I mean, we want to know. Like, what?
I shop thrift stores on a weekly basis.
Yes. Okay.
I collect vintage wedding dresses. So yeah, any guy coming to my garage gets really scared because I have like 30 wedding dresses hanging. They're like, whoa, what have you?
They're not mine, I promise.
Serial marrier. No, I collect those things. If it's pretty, I buy it. And I have a whole garage full, literally, of props and things from years past. So
do you ever end up making them? Have you ever made your work?
It's funny that you say that, because my other job is I'm a theater director, and I do all the costuming and I build the sets, and I'm the costumer, so I style the set as well.
Well, I love your dedication to the style. I think it's absolutely paramount into these kind of photos to tell the story. I have a full chest myself of Goodwill and eBay and Etsy and all kinds of stuff that Katie May, my partner, and she's usually most of my shots, we've been gathering together. We go to Burning Man. This is my 10th year at Burning Man, so I have a lot of Burning Man costumes, which is actually kind of how I got into light painting. How did you find light painting? Were you a photographer first, and then you find?
Yeah. Well, the light painting I've done for the last 15 years has been landscape light painting. And I think that makes a big difference, because I noticed some light painters, they're only light painting the model, and they're not. If you can incorporate both, like when you're doing the arches, right? So when you do the arch, you need to light it from way over there to the side, directional, and then you still need someone over here, which is why I think it's important to have a team. Or you shoot it twice without, you do it just for that, and then you do that, and then you mask in if you don't have somebody with you. I think that's paramount into achieving a depth effect or creating a style that looks a little more planned out than just waving the flashlight on the model and the tube, so to speak.
Yes. And that's actually really what I love about especially the newer tube stuff, is that you're just not doing a tube spin. It is like incorporating a blade. It is doing like some mist around her feet, or his feet. There's just so many layers and depth to the photos, which I love, because I always want to challenge myself. I always want to try to get better, and I think the best thing for me is to just keep adding layers. It shows that as a light painter, you can come back to the same spot. Your spatial awareness is on point. So thank you for being just a guiding light in this.
Thank you. I don't see myself that way, so I'm a little. I don't know.
Well, it's funny, when I started this podcast, to maybe take it down a notch. I started this podcast just because I do want to get to know these beautiful artists. I want to get to know you. Talk about Star Wars, talk about things maybe outside of light painting as well as light painting. But I really feel like I'm hoping that I'm talking for the audience as well, right? Because I want to get to know you, and I'm asking hopefully questions that other people would be like, oh yeah, cool, I saw this too, and I really wanted to ask you this. And as this podcast grows and it gets better and better, because this is, we're still in the infancy stage, we're still stumbling, we're still turning our flashlights on when they shouldn't be on, and we're walking out of the shot, and I'm making mistakes. But you know what? It's a growing process, and it's all good. There. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. Have you ever been to Burning Man?
No, not yet. I haven't yet.
Yes. Okay. Well, if you ever do go, it is something that definitely breeds creativity. It's the safest space for you to express yourself in any way you see fit, which I think is honestly the best cultivation of creativity. When you can just be yourself and truly be your authentic self, and then express it freely without any hesitation or fear. That's where some real magic starts to happen. And when you can surround yourself with 68,000 people that are feeling the same way, you can feel the magic at 5 people. Can you imagine multiplying that by thousands?
Right.
And so, yes, anytime that you want to go, I will definitely do anything I can to try to help you get there.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I'm asking the audience, and specifically you, do you think that we should have more meetups? Do you think that we should have more collabs? And how do we facilitate this?
Absolutely. Meetup, I don't know if you know meetup.com. I've been doing that for over 10 years.
Okay. I didn't know that for light painters per se.
yeah, I mean, I have been doing some, but not a lot of people know yet really what light painting is.
Yeah.
A lot of people think it's 100% Photoshop.
Yes.
That's their first impression. So I'm kind of like on a mission to change that.
Great.
We have a local camera shop that I work for, Paul's Photo. We're on our second workshop where I take these, and they're all older generation photographers. So it's really actually rather cute. So we take them into the forest, and they're just amazed and completely blown away that you can do this with a camera. So it's really neat, and it's really a connection. A great way to connect with other human beings, and you watch that light get lit in their eyes, that, oh my gosh, I can do something new in photography that hasn't been done really yet, in the sense of it's in its infancy. So that's an amazing thing. And so I love seeing that, and I love seeing people grow and watching them and feed off of their ideas, because who knows, they could come up with something I haven't thought of yet.
Absolutely. And that's what I find the most fascinating about this art form, is that there is literally an infinite amount of possibilities, and that's why I'm loving the blading and the fiber optic whips, and you just combine all of these things and all these different colors. Literally, you could have a new photo for days, and just to put it in a person's hands that's never done it before. You're right. Seeing their face and seeing that magic spark inside of them is honestly one of the reasons why I'm doing this. And maybe it's trying to start this podcast. How can we get more people into the community? How can we make the community better? How can we bring the community to feel more connected. One of the things that I felt maybe as a beginner light painter is that I was a little intimidated, right? I wasn't, I'm just trying to learn. I don't really have a team. And I'm always like, oh, I wonder if I could ask them a question. Then you kind of get shy and you're like, no, I don't want to bother them, and so this is a good way for us to do that. When's the next workshop? And
my next workshop is actually, I'm leaving tomorrow.
Okay, that's right. You said that, yeah.
Yeah, we have 18 people. We're going to be in Bristlecone Pines. I don't know if you know where that's at.
I don't.
About 10,000 feet up.
Okay.
So we're teaching a Star Trail Milky Way workshop, and then we combine that with light painting on the second night. So, and my daughter's going with me, and
yes.
so she's getting work as well, and it's fun. You're connecting with people, and you're connecting it in an art form. Some infants, some grown-ups, so to speak, and you get the whole spectrum, and then you get to create art together. And I just don't think there's anything better on planet Earth than that.
I agree. People often are like, man, I've seen you like grow, emotionally, but just personally, like personal growth. And you seem way more calm now. And I'm like, yeah, well, number one, try to work for yourself. Two, don't set an alarm. Three, give more hugs. And four, maybe most importantly, create something, with your hands, with your mind, leave. And then that's what I find so, I guess, revitalizing in this. Like we have to give up our nights. We have to give up sometimes our sleep. But it always seems that I have the energy when I need it because I'm just so in love with creating that spark, creating that, and if I can gift these sparks to people in workshops, just like you're doing and a lot of other light painters are doing, what an amazing feeling and what an amazing place we are here in this light painting stage, right? And you mentioned it's kind of an infancy stage, which I don't know if there's a real census out there, but I heard this number of 30,000 light painters across the world, which it seems really awesome that there's 30,000, but I would never have guessed that. I never would have guessed that.
But even in the scheme of things, it's nothing. It's a speck.
In perspective, that's nothing. Think about how many like acrylic artists out there. Think about how many just plain photographers there are, and not necessarily adding light painting inside of the photography. And so if we can come up with ways, just like dispelling that it's no Photoshop. I don't Photoshop any of my stuff. I don't really even stack photos together or blend them. I will maybe in a Milky Way shot, like like a typical star tracking, and I don't know. Maybe you can speak more on astrophotography. It's definitely one of those goals of mine to get more into. I just always seem to be not patient enough. Maybe like my star trails, you can see them. They're just like, oh yeah, they're like halfway there, and it's like, no, you have to go the distance. Yeah, so it's been good. I think a response to dispelling the truth that everything's in Photoshop or is Photoshop. Do you think it's valuable to actually film? Because I think when we see like film behind the scenes, like film, start the video before you do the shot, show you walking out, do the tube spin, finish your whole composition, and while the video camera is still aimed at your camera shooting the shot, so they can see that it's live, it's back of the camera, there's no Photoshop, and you can zoom into that picture. I love when artists do this because it really dispels this.
Yes, and I was filming by accident because I was actually being lazy. I didn't want to do an in demonstration for a workshop in the studio because it was so small. So I filmed myself. And I actually had a very prominent light painter on Facebook because Eric's tube, the rainbow tube, reflects this way one way and reflected in the water a different way. And argued and argued and argued that it was Photoshopped. Well, I just happened to shoot a Pablo of it. I don't know if you know what Pablo is.
I sure do, yeah.
And I was also filming, I think, just my regular camera, like a film camera, like a video. And I said, thank God I did that. So I posted it. But even after arguing and arguing and arguing, it wasn't until I showed the video, not that I really care. I'm not out to, I don't owe anybody an explanation. But it was really nice to say, you know what? Here you go.
I love it.
It's
yes.
not Photoshop. And if it is Photoshopped, I'll be the first person to tell you that it is.
Yeah. And I think that transparency is key. I have a hard time when people are not admitting to that. because I just think there's just another level of honing your craft. There's just another level of getting, figuring it out, right? And if
Yeah.
it means doing it all in one shot, I want to know that. I want to know that as somebody looking at the work. Um, so we're about time. So I just want to wrap this up real quick. Is there a chance that we could see each other at Comic-Con in San Diego in 2020?
Yes, actually, I'm planning
Okay.
on attending. It's interesting that you asked me that. Are you gonna have a booth, or what are you gonna do?
No, I don't know. I
Oh,
just want to attend because I kind of like to flutter around, right? I don't know if I want to be like stuck in one place. But I definitely plan on attending, and I hope to see you before then. But if not,
okay,
let's
yeah.
definitely let's plan on connecting.
I'll either be as a guest, hopefully, but more importantly, hopefully, I'll have a media pass to go. But we'll see.
And do you have a specific outfit that we could be thinking about? Is it Leia Organa? Are you gonna be? I mean, come on.
Well, okay. So my goal is I ran the Star Wars marathon in my slave Leia costume.
Awesome.
Oh gosh, 2 or 3 years ago. I've had quite a few pizzas since then, but I'm hoping maybe by the next one, maybe Pizza and I will break up and I'll be able to wear it again.
Well, I cannot wait to see this. So
I'm
thank you so
hoping.
much for coming on the show. I just want to say how grateful we are as an audience to get to know you a little bit more. And I can't wait to see what's right around the bend from these workshops and other light painting collabs. Thank you so much for inspiring all of us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having me. It was a
All
pleasure.
right. Thanks, Katrina. Bye.
Bye.